He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. The dirty secret that controls Harry. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You know that one of the most important things to the narcissist is control. Most narcissists don't know this. This takes place subconsciously, controlled by the narcissism, causing the narcissist to say certain things and behave in a particular way to seek out that control, to maintain it, to nullify threats to control. This one's wife controls Harry, like she controls anybody else, but it is particularly prominent with Harry because they are married, and he has the status of Intimate Partner Primary Source, the IPPS. Many people talk about how this one's wife wears the trousers, is Harry's captor or handler, that he has become the spare in his marriage. All of that is a manifestation of the narcissist's need for control over their intimate partner. But why is it that Harry hasn't gone? Why is it that the divorce has not begun? Why is it that Harry hasn't decided to say, you can fuck that shit sky high? After all, this is a man who's known for his petulance of wanting his own way, that had grown up within the gilded environment of the royal family, whereby he had people wanting to carry out what he directed by virtue of their status as a courtier or a servant to him, an individual that didn't have to be concerned about money, an individual who didn't have to be concerned about his examination results because the teacher helped him secure better results than he would have ordinarily obtained on his own, an individual who has, for the most part, had his own way. And therefore, given that that's the environment for which he's come, surely he would think to himself, well, this isn't going the way that I want it, I'm out. So why hasn't he? Why has he not yet escaped? The narcissist. In order to understand this, we need to go back to the beginnings of the relationship between this one's wife and Harry to understand how she seduced him. As you know, narcissists seduce all of their victims, not necessarily in an intimate sexual way, but they will do so by cozying up to you as the new best friend forever, or being the loyal colleague, being the supportive boss, and, of course, pledging undying and forever love to you where the setting is intimate. When it came to this one's wife seduction of Harry, there were three main planks to it. The first was the flattery and the idealization of making him feel like a king. She'd have said, I love you more than anybody else does, more than your family does. In fact, your family have worked against you. You're special. You're a fox, a phrase that she's turned out just recently. She'll have called him handsome, fantastic in bed, entertaining, kind, sparkling, witty, all of these different things, layering on the flattery to make him feel that he is special, not just a prince amongst men, but a king, and someone who ought to be king. This would naturally feed into anybody's desire to be complimented and flattered. After all, everybody likes to be praised to some extent. But also, given Harry's strong narcissistic trait of resentment, the fact that he didn't always feel like he got the recognition that he deserved, that William got one extra sausage than he did, the fact that he was the spare, the fact that someone came along and made it all about him for a change rather than it being about Charles or William, resonated with him and made him particularly susceptible to the overtures and manipulations of this one's wife. That was the first plank, flattery and praise. The second was false compassion. There is little doubt that Harry has his problems, and much of that has come from the fact that he lost his mother at a young age and in public and tragic circumstances. This one's wife, as a middle mid-range narcissist, utilizes cognitive empathy so that her narcissism would have made it seem like she cared about him. I understand what it's like to have been let down by your family. It's happened to me. I understand what it's like to love somebody and for it to go wrong. I understand how hard it must be for you, Harry. And she'll essentially have taken his vulnerability and exploited it, not at this juncture by using it against him in the sense of being horrible about it, but using it against him in the sense of making him believe that she cared and that she would be there to support him, there to look after him, there to care for him. And thus, that was the second plank of the seduction. The third was sex. As a somatic narcissist, this one's wife is hypersexualized, meaning that she has had a lot of sex, will use sex as a means of manipulation, that she'll provide plenty of it, and undoubtedly will put on a performance. As Harry memorably said, she'll let you do anything. The used pleasure appliance would demonstrate that she is able, as I've mentioned before, to suck that golf ball through 40 feet of hose pipe, that she's flexible and bendy, that you can stick it anywhere, and so on and so forth. To a randy little sod like Harry, this was manna from heaven, and he certainly got stuck in. And thus, with the lashings of spicy poontang, she lured him in. More about that in due course. Thus Harry was ensnared, a combination of making him feel special, making him feel supported, and sexing him senseless. All of those things were utilised to bring him under control, and thus he became the intimate partner primary source of this one's wife, as they became boyfriend and girlfriend, fiancés, and then spouses. The golden period ensued, and everything was wonderful for Harry, but as you know from my work, that only lasts so long, and then, as night follows day, sustained devaluation made its appearance. Throughout that, this one's wife was alternated between unpleasant, devaluing manipulations and a restoration of the respite period where everything seems to be all right again. Back and forth, silent treatments, false accusations, adverse triangulations, circular conversations, bringing up the past, future faking, belittlement, invalidation, insult, the exhibition of rage, possible physical assaults, the utilization of gaslighting, the revision of history, and many other manipulations that have been utilized. Following all this devaluing behavior, you may then wonder, so what's actually stopping Harry from leaving her? After all, we've seen for ourselves how unhappy he looks. Only recently, he appeared as if he was on the verge of tears when they exited the vehicle in New York City. We've seen him come second best, being prodded and pushed around, that he follows in her wake, that, again in New York City, she nary gave him a glance. And imagine if that's the glimpses that you get of the behaviour in public. It doesn't take much to imagine what's going on behind closed doors. And therefore, given that he's being subjected to this behaviour, and he will, because remember, she is a narcissist, and that means she will devalue him. This is what narcissists do. It means he is being badly treated. And moreover, he's being belittled in effect in public because she makes herself the star of the show, when in actual fact, he's always been the main draw, something that he's always been used to. Why doesn't he go? Well, one suggestion might be because Harry's of low cognitive function. We know he's a bit of a dimwit, and it might be therefore suggested that he can't really see what's going on. But at the end of the day, you know when somebody's not talking to you. You know when somebody's accused you of something that you've not done. You know when somebody says something nasty to you. You know when somebody hits you. So even if some of the more subtle devaluations might fly over the head of Harry as a consequence of his low cognitive function, he is able to recognise when she's treating him badly. And therefore, low cognitive function isn't going to be keeping him in place. What about emotional thinking? Emotional thinking generated by the addiction to the narcissist is something that is very powerful and leads many people to remain ensnared even when they know that they are being in effect abused. This certainly plays a part, and causes the victim often to blame themselves or to think that they can't get away for a variety of different reasons, which actually turn out not to be as powerful as one first thought. This is something that I regularly discuss with the people that I advise in consultations in order to assist them in recognizing they're dealing with a narcissist and to get out and to stay out. Undoubtedly, emotional thinking plays a part with regard to Harry, but it's not insurmountable. And even with the most codependent of victims, there comes a point when it all becomes too much. Another factor, of course, is the children. To the extent that you accept that they exist, this is naturally something that may well cause him not to want to leave, in terms of not being apart from his children and quite possibly wanting to protect them, as he sees the way that this one's wife behaves in relation to them. Not only behind closed doors, but of course her more recent exploitation of the children, utilising them in social media, something that Harry has always been against. The fact that he seems helpless to control her doing this is also potentially something that causes him to be possibly concerned that if he were not there, it would get even worse. But even then, that's not something that is, again, insurmountable. It could be the case that he contests for custody, and custody is granted to him, and therefore all is not lost in that regard. What about pride? We know that Harry is an individual with a strong trait of narcissistic pride. Might it be that he simply won't go because he can't bear to admit that he got it wrong, that he's fucked up, that he was warned by William and others, and now he has to come back with his tail between his legs? Again, it's a possibility, but it's not such a powerful point as to prevent one removing oneself from somebody that is abusing you. So, whilst there are factors that combine which could well keep him in place, they are, as I mentioned, not insurmountable. And it seems to me that the reason why Harry has not departed is because this one's wife has a particular hold over him that goes beyond the manipulations that she uses and the other factors that I've described. And it goes back to the issue of the sex, which arose in the early days of them coming together. There is little doubt that this one's wife has a close relationship with Marcus Anderson through Soho House. I have little doubt that a place such as that and individuals such as those will look to get people in compromising positions. It is an age-old story. I recall an individual that I knew that owned a bar, and he, in the course of one drunken evening, made an admission to me, because of course individuals invariably love to confess, if only to demonstrate how clever they think they are, that he would from time to time organise private parties at the bar, and he would hire attractive women to wait on, but he would also recruit prostitutes, who would then lure away the guests to an upstairs room, where they would engage in sex acts, and, unbeknownst to them, they were being filmed. These individuals were lawyers, bankers, accountants, and the individual that I knew had done this so that he had material which could simply be used for blackmail, that he could utilise for the purposes of gaining favours from these individuals vis-à-vis his own business dealings. He did it on a regular basis. It is hardly a new invention. And it's certainly the case that individuals such as Marcus Anderson, this one's wife, would, for the purposes of personal advancement, look at behaving in a similar way. Certain environments, which are pubs and bars and clubs, private places where individuals go to let their hair down, often seek to do so to engage in behaviours which otherwise would receive criticism were they witnessed in public. In many instances, however, there are those that do not exercise caution and find themselves getting caught out because they walk into a honey trap. And it seems to me that the tightness of the relationship between Marcus Anderson and this one's wife, the allegations that have never gone away in relation to her being a yacht girl, and in effect accusations of her being some form of escort, suggest to me, and in light of what has unfolded, that it is highly likely that in those early days of hypersexualized activity with Harry, that this one's wife and Harry indulged in all manner of shenanigans, some of which Harry would not want the general public to know about, and that this was filmed. This was filmed because it was par the course to do that for clientele at this particular place. That it might not necessarily have taken place at the venue as described, but at other places, but the introduction had been effected. And it was done in that moment, of course, as part of the ensnarement undertaken by this one's wife. She would not have been creating the content with a view to later using it as a blackmail device, but rather would be engaging in activity in the moment in order to ensnare Harry, because his susceptibility to some sexual freakery, if I can describe it as such, meant that she would provide that as part of him being painted white and her letting him do whatever he wanted, which would include some behaviours which, whilst they were consensual between him and her, would undoubtedly be frowned upon should the information ever be publicly leaked. In order to ensure that the deal was secured, this was filmed. And to my mind, given the fact that there are a host of reasons as to why Harry ought to escape but hasn't done so, that tells me that, given the history of this one's wife, the connections with Marcus Anderson, and the fact that Harry has not departed, points to the fact that she clearly has a dirty secret, or dirty secrets, recorded in relation to Harry's conduct, which means that he fears that should he ever seek to escape her, that it would be used against him. There are some that think that this one's wife has gathered material from when she was in the royal family about what has gone on there, which she might use against Harry, but I don't think that's the case. I think that the royal family had an awareness of what a difficult individual she was, and managed to ensure that she wasn't allowed into the inner sanctum to the extent that she sought. For instance, she was caught taking photographs of the children's bedrooms. She will not have been made privy to the secrets because they will have identified at an early juncture that she was a troublemaker. The Queen had her sussed. Instead, the blackmail material, to my mind, comes from the early engagement. There is no doubt whatsoever that she, as a somatic, hypersexualized narcissist, used sex as one of the three planks to ensnare Harry, and in so doing, he indulged in activities that he wanted to because he has that sexual freakery about him, and this meant that she engaged and indulged him, and it was recorded. And now that is held over him as a threat to keep him in situ. Otherwise, why would somebody who is so notably unhappy, so notably miserable in his marriage, continue to allow himself to be treated as the spare? There is a dirty secret that controls Harry, and it arose in the early days of the seduction. Do you agree? Do you think that is what keeps Harry in situ? Or do you think it's something else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.